All right. Hi there. I am Jonathan, and welcome to Coffee Chat. I hope you have your coffee. This morning, we're going to be talking about uh, what if I step back? What if I stop doing these things for my adult child, right? Are they going to fall apart? What's going to happen if I back off? Can they make it? That kind of thing. That's what we're talking about today. So give me a moment, and I will be right back, and we will get this started. Okay, we are good to go. All right, so today in our coffee chat, we are going to be talking about those questions that so many parents ask me, right? It's this tough spot that so many parents are in where they're saying, okay, my adult child is not doing this thing, whatever they're doing. I'm basically doing it for them. I'm the one reminding them. I'm the one that's making sure it's happening. I'm the one that's keeping them on task. I'm the one who's paying for the bills. I'm the one who's fixing the problems, right? If I stop doing that, what's going to happen, right? That is a very difficult place for parents to be in, right? Because you're worried, you care about them. And let's look at the reality, right? You want them to do well. You want them to improve. You want them to thrive. But they're not doing it, right? They're not doing it on their own. You're doing so much of it. So the reality is, despite what you want, this is what they're doing, or what they're not doing, or more correctly, what you're doing for them. And if you stop doing it, right, are they going to crash and burn? Right? Are there going to be some real time consequences for them? And how do you get through that? Right? What do you do? So here's what I want to do. I actually had some questions from parents that were this very same topic, this very same thing, and I wanted to read some of them, and I wanted to just talk about that this morning. And if anyone has any questions, that you might be watching this live, or most people are watching this after the fact, I would love to hear your questions, your comments on this, if there's something more specific. And eventually, that's more of what I want in this talk, this chat, is it's less of a talk. I give those trainings and such in, especially in the Facebook group, which is in the descriptions, right? That's a great community to be a part of. And also, through the email list. If you get on that, I send you tools, I send you information, and some great things to help you and support you. But this time is more of interactive, where I want to answer any questions and connect with anyone around those questions. So let me read this first one that I got from someone. It says, if I stop reminding him and pushing him, he literally won't do anything. How am I supposed to step back when I know that nothing will happen? Okay, so I feel that question just really captures a parent in that moment, right? Because it shared their belief. It told their belief in the reality of what's happening, right? You hear a parent who's saying, I am reminding him. I am pushing him. He literally won't do anything. So a parent is in that gap, right? They are the motivator. They're the thing that's making this happen. And then they're thinking, how am I supposed to step back when I know nothing will happen? There's the belief, right? There's the belief, which makes sense, right? The belief is nothing will happen. If I don't do it, he will not do it. Right? Therefore, if I stop doing it, nothing's going to happen. Right? Now, I don't know all the specifics, right? Are you paying bills? Are you getting to work every day? Are you doing their homework for them? Are you, whatever it is, right? And before we judge on those things, I've seen parents go into pretty extreme levels of doing things for their kids. Like they're doing their homework, right? They're reminding them to wake up for work. They're reminding them to go to bed. They're reminding them to eat. They're, things that they should not be doing for their kids. And other parents are like, I can't believe they do their homework for them and stuff. These kind of things tend to develop over time, right? Right out of those dilemmas, right? At the heart of it, even how off base it is in what a parent is doing for a kid, how extremely out of balance it is. Right? When I talk with the parents, they're doing it out of love. They're doing it out of concern. They're doing it out of they don't want their child to fail and to hurt. And usually the general belief with parents in that moment is, if I can do this for them long enough, right, they're going to catch on, right? They're going to get motivated themselves and they're going to start doing it. And, that's the hope, right? I'm going to show them how, then they're going to know how, then they're going to do it for themselves, right? Or maybe they're just depressed or they're going through a tough time. As soon as they get through that, then they're going to step up. They're going to start doing it for themselves. That's what I hear a lot of parents saying and thinking in those moments. So we don't want to judge. I mean, the logic makes sense, right? But it's still a dilemma. You're doing stuff for them that they should be doing for themselves. So it brings us back to that question. If I stop doing it, he will do nothing, right? That's the belief. Here's the thing. There is a period of time, right? There is likely a gap where when you stop doing something, they're not going to do it, right? They don't know how to do it, perhaps, right? They're not used to doing it, perhaps. This is a big one. They don't really believe that you're not going to come in and do it for them. So it's kind of like this. If I don't step up, right? Mom, dad, whoever, they're eventually going to step in and do it. Or the young adult is in a position where they're like, I don't really care, right? I don't even care about this situation. I don't even care about doing this thing. I don't care if I work. I don't care if my room is clean. I don't care if, even if I pay for the apartment, I get kicked out. That sounds ridiculous, but I've seen them there. Like in that young adult's mind, right? Either they're really far removed from reality, right? They've never really had to face consequences on that level, or they're just in a very depressed place and they can't think beyond the immediate moment, right? Yeah, okay, if I don't pay the bills, I could get kicked out in a month, right? But that's not today. And so it's a different mindset that they're in. And so if they have that mindset, and then on top of it, somehow it works out, right? Somebody steps in. Grandma gives me some money. I'm able to get someone to do this for me. I'm able to get an extra chance here. Someone feels bad for me, right? They can get in that mindset, and it all gets to, I really don't have to do this. Right? So it's a very real thing if you say, we're going to step back and they're going to do nothing, right? That's a real possibility for this person. When you ask this question, that could be very accurate, right? For a while, he's not going to do anything. Then what are you going to do? Right? He is going to need to face some reality. Right? Eventually, you can't do these things for him, whatever it is you're doing for him. Right? That's got to change. Well, let me make a couple points here. I'm really big on this, right? When I'm working with parents, whether that's one-on-one or in one of my coaching groups or something like that, I'm really big at don't abandon your kids, right? Don't go from complete enabling or taking care of everything to dead stop, right? That usually is a scenario where they are going to experience something so overwhelming that it's going to be hurtful, harmful, damaging for them, and it's going to have a big impact on the relationship. If you go from doing everything to a complete dead stop, that's often taken as personal. They don't always understand that. It feels like rejection. It feels like anger. It feels like hatred. And if I could be honest, straightforward with you, a lot of times it is, right? When parents go to that extreme, it's because they've been burned too many times. They're just sick and tired of it. They're upset. They're angry. And they're being at least passive aggressive, if not aggressive in that moment, right? And they're going from one extreme to the other. And they'll argue, they'll make the argument like, I should have been doing this for them all along, so I'm completely justified in stopping. And that's too big of a gap. That's too big of a jump in your thoughts, right? Yes, they need to be doing this stuff. Yes, you should not have been doing it for them. Yes, they should have been doing it for themselves, right? I agree with that. Right? But going from one extreme to the other, especially without communication, without a plan, without that, that's reactive. That's where a parent is in a reactive position. Right? And so I am not okay with a young adult taking advantage of a parent. I'm also not okay with a parent doing things for a young adult that they need to be doing for themselves. But you don't just jump from step 1 to step 100, right? That doesn't work. And even if it does, right? Because I'll have some parents say, you know what? I just stopped everything. I cut it off and they picked up, Yeah, but how's your relationship? Probably not doing that well, right? It was extreme. So what we're looking for is a way for you to back off, but to do it intentionally with the knowledge that your adult child is going to struggle on some level. But we want them to know that you're still willing to help. You're still in it with them, but you have boundaries, right? So I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to support you as long as you're moving forward, right? I'm not doing this forever, and I'm certainly not going to be taken advantage of, right? Because that doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. So this is the reality that parents need to face, is that you are going to have to back off. You are going to have to stop doing things for your kid, your adult child, that they can learn to do for themselves. Right? That's going to be a reality. And it's going to be a struggle for them. And you need to let that happen. Now, there are scenarios where, plenty of scenarios. I mean, I can tell you plenty of times where no matter how intentional the parents were, no matter how soft and loving and firm their message was, the adult child still was resentful, still was angry, still was blaming them, still was saying, well, I'm not going to do blank, 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 whatever it is, right? And there was some real struggle. I'm talking about, you got to see your kid ruin their credit. You got to see your kid get kicked out. You got to see your kid run out of money. And, some of these things, not because you want that for them, but that's what they chose. And that's a big difference, right? I really try to help parents with that. That's what they chose. Like, you're there. Hey, I'm willing to help you. We can take this step, this step, this step. We can do that. You don't have to be homeless. You don't have to run out of money. You don't have to. And by homeless, let me just put this here. Like, who's really homeless? I mean, I have seen it, right? But a lot of times in the situations that we're talking about, the parents that I'm talking about, that's more of a choice, of a young adult who's like, I'm just so firmly not going to take these steps. Oh gosh, this is complicated, but I think I want to go there, right? Yes, there are mental health issues, right? If your child is really struggling with a mental health condition, like extreme depression, maybe they're neurodivergent, right? We need to take that into account, right? So that path's going to look a little different than someone who's completely capable and in a well enough mental place, right? And the steps are going to be smaller, and we're going to approach it a little differently. But I tell you this, it's still going to be the same trajectory, which is parents backing off and giving the adult child an opportunity to step up. Communication, conversations, it's got to be talked about, right? And that message needs to be very clear. We got to move out of the reactive pattern that I see parents in so many times, which is we're going to talk about something that needs to happen, or complain about something that needs to happen, or that isn't happening, and then we're going to back off and see what happens. And then when it doesn't happen, when they don't follow through again, right? When we have to step in, when we have to, they've done that thing again, then we're going to react to it. It's got to be more intentional than that. It's got to be much more communication. And you can go back and watch some of our earlier talks, because then parents are like, well, they won't talk to me, right? And I talk about the important steps of how to do your best, to do your part to keep that communication going. But that's part of their choice there too, right? If you're being loving, if you're being kind, if you're paying attention to your approach and it's the right approach, it's like an invitation. I'm here. Come talk to me, right? I would love to talk to you about what's happening, and I want to help you, right? Because we're not going to keep paying for this, or we're not going to keep doing this, or you really do have to move out, right? So if you want to talk more about it, we're here to help you. We want to talk with you, but this is what it looks like moving forward, right? And then it's their choice. So a lot of you are going to be in a situation. I would say every parent is, because it's a struggle to learn how to live, right? How to be an adult, how to take care of something that you haven't taken care of before. Whatever it is, right? There's some level of struggle. That's learning. That is literally the process of learning, right? There's something that you need to know or how to do that you don't, right? And there's a gap there. There's tension. You have experienced that in your life. I have experienced it in my life. Everyone does, right? It's the realization of, I've got to know something, or I've got to do something that I don't know how to do. That creates tension, right? When someone's been through that multiple times and they have confidence that they will be able to figure it out, they will be able to learn it, it's not as much tension. But for some, there's a tremendous amount of tension, right? It's overwhelming. And that's what support should look like, right? It's not, let me do it for you. Let me help you figure out how to learn this. How can I break it into smaller steps? How can we, work together so that you can figure out how to take this, right? That's the support, right? So your child is going to struggle. They are going to feel that tension. And some of them are actively going to avoid the change that they have to make. And that's where the struggle is worse, right? And so some of them will need to be late on their bills, not show up to class, not show up to work, not take care of their responsibilities, right? Yes, they might get kicked out of that apartment and have bad credit. All right, they might not have the cell phone because you're not paying for it anymore, or whatever the boundary is, right? And I just heard from one of the viewers about a situation with her adult son where he was hitting, I think she said, rock bottom, right? Finances gone, all that. Previously unwilling to talk, was so angry at the parents and all this type of stuff, angry at them, right? But it sounded like they took more of a position of, we're just not going to do this for you anymore. And when he experienced the reality of, wow, this hurts and I'm falling apart and I'm not managing my life and this is horrible. And it really is less about my parents and it's more about I'm not doing anything, right? The willingness to talk happened, right? And sometimes that's the hard path, is your child does need to experience those consequences. And one of the things that makes me just sad is parents who haven't gotten past their own anger at what the adult child did for years, that when they're finally struggling and willing to talk, parents who take a position of like, I told you so, right? You screwed everything up and look where you are. And now you're crawling back, willing to talk when you should have done this before. That's not the place you want to be, right? That's a heart check, right? That's a check that you haven't worked through the pain that you have been through, the fear that you've been through with your adult child. Because yes, there are times that they have manipulated, they have cussed you out, they have told you you're the problem, they have not listened to you, right? And you're trying, right? But why are you doing this? Right? Like what's your ultimate goal as a parent? Right? Is it revenge and retribution? I'm saying that harshly, or is it that ultimately your kid's going to figure it out? So it's being able to celebrate when they finally come around, right? When they finally figure out, like, I screwed up, right? I need to turn things around. Welcoming them with open arms, right? Instead of rejection and shame, right? Those are critical moments. Those are critical relational moments, right? Where you can be thankful that your child is finally figuring it out. That does not mean that you're going to get taken advantage of again. That doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. Like, okay, now they're willing to talk to me. Now I gotta do everything for them again. No, you still need to have those boundaries, right? But they're in a place of humility and brokenness, right? And they're willing to talk. They're willing to accept some help. The help is support on them moving forward. It's not you being taken advantage of. It's not you doing things for them again, right? That's another extreme. So it's being able to go back to that place of healthy boundaries. That is so crucial, so important. And that's mainly what I wanted to encourage parents with in today's chat was at some point you're going to be there in the journey. You're going to be in the journey where you are going to have to stop doing something for your adult child that they can do for themselves. And they're going to struggle, right? And yes, that might mean that they're not going to do it for themselves for a while, right? And in that question I read where the parent says, if I don't do it, they're going to do nothing, right? They're not going to do it. I would add on to that, yet, right? They're going to do nothing yet. That's a weird way of saying it, right? At first, yes, they're not going to do it. They're going to struggle. But that's not going to go on forever unless you jump back into the same role. So the real thing is it's something that needs to be communicated, not a reaction that you just pop on them. It needs to be communicated, and they need to see and understand that, or at least you need to explain it to them and do your best to convey, I'm here for you. I care about you. I'm trying to help you. This is something you need to do. And let's talk about how to make it happen, right? You're an active participant and discussing and planning of how they're going to be able to take over. But at some point you got to say, no, I'm really not going to do it. Right. And that due date goes by, right? The time to go to work goes by. The time for them to pay the bill goes by, and they don't do it. Right. But you've been telling them, that's where it connects what you've been saying with reality. This is a parenting truth from when your kids are little to even adulthood, right? You're going to talk to them. You're going to say, hey, here's reality. Here's what you have to do. Here's how it's going to work. Here's what is going to happen. And they hear you, and they might logically even understand what you're saying, but they haven't experienced it themselves. right? They haven't experienced the pain of being behind on your bills or whatever the pain is, right? When you've been giving the right message all along, like, look, hey, this is going to happen. This is probably how it's going to feel. This is what you're going to be dealing with. I'm here for you, but this is really going to happen, right? When you're in that position, and then it happens, right? They're listening to you. Yeah, okay. Until it really happens, right? Now your message fits reality. And that's not, I told you so, you dummy, you stupid, no, that's shame, right? It's where you lovingly come in, and sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You say, hey, how's it going, right? I know you didn't pay that bill, or you didn't have enough money, or that thing didn't happen, right? I know that's a tough position, right? Now you're going to have to move out. Now you're going to have to, you're going to lose that phone or whatever it is. And you can be in a place of compassion saying, yeah, this is what we talked about, right? But there's always a way forward. There's always something you can do about it. You ready to talk, right? We can talk about how you can make more money. We can talk about how you can deal with that addiction or that depression that you have. Yeah, maybe now, should we talk about therapy? Are you ready now? Right? And that process continues, right? Until they get to a place of, okay, now I need to take this step. And you're always there, right? Always there to help them, right? But it's got to be them, not you. Big point. Okay, that was my talk for today. That's what I wanted to go over. If you have questions, if you have comments, agree, disagree, clarifications, leave that in the comments because I do read those. And we will be doing this every weekday at 10:30 currently. If I change the time, I will let you know. But this is what's working on the schedule. And also remember, email list and the Facebook group. 2 amazing, great resources for you. Free, by the way, and highly valuable. So that is available to you. So thank you for watching today. I hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk again soon.